The live photo clicked before I even realized what I'd done. My thumb brushed the screen by accident, and a half second of motion came alive, just enough to hear a man's voice whisper her name. Not mine, hers. That soft, drawn-out whisper filled the silence of our kitchen like something pulled out of a dream. The fridge hummed, my coffee steamed, and all I could do was stare at the timestamp, 7:42 p.m., the exact time she told me she was at yoga. I'm Aaron, 32, a web designer from Portland who thought his 5-year relationship was built on trust. For most of that evening, I didn't even mean to check her phone. She'd left it charging on the counter while taking a shower. The screen lit up with a message from her studio. Reminder, class canceled due to water damage. Canceled. That was the word that began everything. I remember standing there with the glow of her phone washing my hands blue, that simple, gut-cold curiosity pushing me. I didn't look for trouble. I just tapped the photos icon to see if maybe she'd taken a picture at yoga earlier, something that explained the mixed-up time. The newest file was a live photo from a dimly lit room, all low amber light and shadows moving close together. Then that whisper, a man's voice saying her name. Sophie. Soft, intimate, almost reverent. The water stopped running upstairs. I locked the phone and set it back, every heartbeat counting like footsteps. Sophie came down wrapped in a towel, hair damp, phone already in her hand before she even said hi. Long day? She asked, leaning in to kiss me. I mumbled something like, yeah. My stomach was too tight to form a full word. She sipped my coffee, then laughed. Too cold. You never finish it. I watched her scroll through notifications, thumb moving with that casual ease only someone innocent, or practiced, would have. Then the lock screen dimmed again, and she wandered off toward the laundry room. The air in the kitchen felt heavy, sour, with the smell of detergent and something unspoken. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept hearing that whisper, over and over. It wasn't just that someone said her name, it was how he said it, like they'd been close enough to share the same breath. By morning, the quiet between us had grown sharp. Sophie hummed while packing her gym bag, cheerful, precise, exactly like any other Tuesday. I asked, You heading to yoga again? She nodded, tying her shoes. Yeah, they reopened. 8 o'clock class. I said nothing. She kissed my cheek, and I watched her car pull out of the driveway. I sat there for a long time before I did something I never thought I'd do. I turned on location sharing. We'd used it years ago for road trips, never turned it off, but now it felt like crossing a line. The dot on my screen drifted across town, not toward her yoga studio. It stopped near Hawthorne Street, behind a row of loft apartments. I stared until the screen went dark. I drove. Slowly. No radio, just the sound of rain against the windshield. When I reached the block, I parked across from a coffee shop with frosted windows and waited. I told myself I wasn't going to confront her, that I only needed to see. At 8:23, Sophie appeared. Not in yoga gear, but in jeans and a soft gray sweater I hadn't seen before. She held an umbrella, walking beside a man in a black jacket. They shared one cup of coffee, passing it back and forth, laughing. His hand brushed her arm. She didn't flinch. I watched until they disappeared into the building next to the cafe. The rain thickened. My wipers squeaked across glass, and I realized I'd been holding my breath since she stepped out of the car. That night, she came home humming again, hair damp from a shower that hadn't happened in our house. Class was great, she said, tossing her keys in the bowl. I asked, Which one? She blinked. What? The studio, I said. You said they reopened. Which location? Oh, Belmont. She smiled too fast. Why? Just wondering. She crossed the room, kissed my forehead, and said, "You've been acting weird lately." I laughed. It sounded wrong in my throat. The next morning I tried to act normal, made eggs, packed her lunch. But while she showered, I opened my laptop and searched the studio's schedule. No class listed for Belmont, none that week. I thought about that whisper again, the intimacy in it. Then I opened the live photo, frame by frame, holding my breath as if silence could make the truth clearer. In the blur of movement, I caught it, her reflection in a mirror, leaning toward a man's shoulder, hair falling forward, her smile unguarded. That moment lived somewhere between denial and proof. I couldn't erase it, couldn't confront it yet either. So I saved the file to my computer, renaming it Project Image. For the next few days, I built a rhythm around pretending. I told myself I needed time to know more before saying anything. She texted like nothing changed. Running late, see you soon, love you. Every message came with a photo. Streetlights, coffee cups, gym mirrors. I studied the reflections in every one. On Friday, she said she'd be gone until 10. I tracked her again. The dot stopped in the same place as before. I drove out, parking 2 blocks away this time. I walked, hood up, pretending to talk on my phone. Through a gap in the curtains on the second floor, I saw a silhouette, 2 figures close together. I couldn't see faces, just shapes and motion. Her laugh carried faintly through the rain. I stood there until my hands went numb. Then I turned and walked home. Saturday morning, Sophie made pancakes. She played music from her phone, humming off beat, smiling at me like everything was simple. "You're quiet again," she said. "Work stress?" "Something like that." She reached for my hand. "You know you can talk to me, right?" I wanted to. I really did. But I needed her truth, not mine. The next turning point came by accident. While cleaning the table, I saw her phone light up with a new text. "Can't wait to see you Monday. Same place?" The contact name was Jordan Trainer. Sophie looked up from the sink just in time to see me reading it. Her eyes froze for half a second, the tiniest glitch in her smile. Then she said, "That's my personal trainer. You know that." I didn't. She dried her hands, grabbed the phone, and scrolled quickly. "We're just working on posture stuff for yoga." "Posture stuff at apartments?" I asked. Her mouth opened, then closed. "He has a home studio." The lie was too smooth. Practiced. That night I drove back to Hawthorne alone. The same window glowed upstairs. I sat in my car with the live photo looping on my screen, rain hammering the roof. At 9:20, the front door opened. Sophie stepped out laughing. The man followed, pulling her close under his umbrella. The sound of her name again. Not from the photo this time, but real, drifting faintly across the street. I don't remember driving home. Only the sound of wipers and that single word repeating in my head. When she came in later, I was sitting in the dark. She jumped a little. "Aaron, why aren't the lights on?" I said, "I know, Sophie." She blinked. "Know what?" "About him." For a moment, the air between us thinned. Then she laughed, too softly. "Aaron, that's crazy. You're tired. I played the live photo. The sound filled the kitchen again, faint but unmistakable. "Sophie." Her face changed. Not guilt exactly, more like fear that the curtain had finally dropped. "I can explain," she said, voice trembling. "It's not what you think." "Then what is it?" She looked down, twisting her ring. "It's complicated." "That's one word. He's just someone from class, okay? We had coffee, we talked. You were in his apartment." Her eyes flickered. "Just once." "Twice," I said. "I saw you on Friday." She stepped back like I'd struck her. You followed me? I didn't have to. You left evidence yourself. She pressed her palms to her forehead. Aaron, please. I just needed to feel seen again. You've been distant, always working. Don't turn this on me. The silence after that felt final. She slept in the guest room that night. I heard her crying through the wall, quiet, almost apologetic sobs. I didn't move. I didn't speak. At dawn, I packed a bag and left for my brother's place. I told him it was temporary, that we needed space. But the truth was, I didn't know what I was waiting for. An apology, a reason, or just proof that the person I loved still existed under all those lies. A week later, she sent a message. I'm sorry. I'll explain everything. Can we meet? I said yes. We met at the same cafe near Hawthorne. Irony, thick enough to taste. She sat across from me, hair pulled back, eyes rimmed red. It wasn't serious, she said. I ended it. With who? Jordan. That's his name? She nodded. He's married. It was stupid. I liked how he listened. That's all it was. Her voice cracked. She reached across the table. I didn't move. I wish you'd just talk to me instead of spying. Talk to you? I whispered. When every word out of your mouth was a performance? We sat there in the noise of the cafe, two strangers sharing old ghosts. When she left, she said, if you ever want to understand, come find me. That night, I opened the live photo one last time. I noticed something I hadn't before. In the reflection behind them, a third figure by the doorway, blurred, half hidden, watching. The timestamp showed 7:42, same as before, but the metadata said different location coordinates, not the loft, not the studio, somewhere else. And suddenly, I realized this wasn't over. I didn't sleep that night either. My phone sat on the table. The live photo paused on that faint reflection I'd missed before. That third figure. The more I zoomed, the worse it got. It wasn't just a blur, it was a person, maybe standing behind a half-open door, watching them. At first, I thought it might just be some trick of the light, but the longer I stared, the more my mind refused to let it go. Whoever it was, they were there at the same moment Sophie's name was whispered. And the location tag, definitely not the loft. When I checked the coordinates, it pinned somewhere east of the river. A house, maybe, or a studio. Something about that detail flipped the script in my head. It wasn't just cheating anymore. It was something else. Something I didn't understand. The next morning, I drove across the bridge before dawn. The roads were empty, mist rolling low over the water. The coordinates led me to a quiet residential street lined with tall cedars and half-frozen lawns. The address didn't match any apartment complex. It was an old two-story craftsman with drawn curtains and a single porch light still on. I parked across from it and watched. 7:30. No movement. 7:42. The same timestamp again, burned into my brain. A woman opened the front door, looked both ways, and stepped out. It wasn't Sophie. She was older, maybe mid-40s, carrying a box to her car. A minute later, a man followed. Not Jordan either. This guy wore a uniform with a moving company logo. They loaded something into the back seat, exchanged a few words, and left. The house looked empty after that. But I noticed something strange. Taped to the inside of the window was a small paper sign. It read, "For rent, inquiries, call Linda." A handwritten number followed. I took a photo and drove away, my chest buzzing with questions. At work, I couldn't focus. Every click of the mouse sounded like static. By noon, I'd already dialed the number from the sign. Linda speaking? Her voice was brisk, real estate cheerful. I said, "Hi, I'm calling about the house on, East 17th? Oh, that one. Lovely old place. Just cleared out last week. Cleared out? Yes. The tenant moved out early. Something about a breakup or disagreement with the owner. We're just waiting to relist it. I hesitated. Do you know who the tenant was? There was a pause. A young woman, I think. Name might have been Sophie. That single word made my throat close. Right, I said quietly. Thank you. I hung up and just sat there in the office parking lot, the heater humming, my reflection ghosted in the window. Sophie had rented that place? Why? When I confronted her that evening, she didn't even deny it. She was at the sink, sleeves rolled up, scrubbing dishes hard enough to make her knuckles red. I said, "How long were you paying rent on East 17th? Her hands froze in the water. Then very softly, "You went there?" That's not an answer. She turned off the tap, drying her hands on a towel, eyes darting toward the hallway like she needed an escape route. It wasn't what you think, she said. I just needed somewhere quiet for myself. Yourself and Jordan? She didn't answer. We didn't talk for 2 days after that. The house felt like an echo chamber. Every creak in the floorboards felt like a memory walking through. I moved back into the guest room. Every night I heard her pacing, whispering into her phone. One night I caught a few words through the thin drywall. He saw it. No, he doesn't know yet. I think he heard something. The next morning, her phone was gone from the charger by the bed. By Friday, I started to unravel. I went back to the live photo again, zoomed, slowed, filtered. That third figure, the outline looked familiar. Tall, shoulders slouched forward slightly. I kept thinking, was it Jordan or someone else entirely? That weekend, Sophie packed a suitcase. She didn't announce it. She just walked into the kitchen, said she'd be staying with a friend for a bit, and left. I didn't try to stop her, but as the door shut, something shifted. A strange mix of grief and curiosity. I needed to know what had really been going on, not just the affair, the whole thing. The next day, I called the real estate agent again. I pretended to be a potential tenant and asked when I could see the property. Linda said she'd meet me there Sunday afternoon. When I arrived, she was already waiting, jangling a key ring. It's mostly cleared out, she said. Still smells a bit of incense, though. The moment I stepped inside, my skin prickled. The air was stale but familiar. Like the candles Sophie used to burn during winter, the living room was almost empty except for a wall mirror left leaning against the corner. That same mirror from the live photo. Linda talked as I wandered the rooms, but her voice faded behind me. I walked upstairs. In one of the smaller rooms, there was a faint mark on the carpet where a chair had sat and a small nail hole in the wall, dead center at head height. When I leaned closer, I saw a residue outline. Tape marks, maybe where something had been pinned. A photo, a note? I couldn't tell. Looks like she used this room for yoga, Linda said from the doorway. Had those stretch bands hooked there. I nodded, pretending to agree. But deep down, I knew this wasn't about yoga. Later that evening, I couldn't shake the image of that mirror. The reflection. The third figure. So I imported the live photo into editing software and enhanced the exposure. The blurred figure brightened slightly. The outline became clearer. It wasn't Jordan. And it wasn't a stranger either. It was me, or at least someone wearing my jacket. That old Navy one with the torn cuff. My chest went cold, but I'd never been there. Not once. That night, Sophie texted, "We need to talk. Please, don't ignore me." I replied, "Then talk." She said, "Not over text. Meet me at the house tomorrow. Last time, I promise." I stared at the message for a long minute before typing. Okay. Sunday afternoon, the weather turned heavy. Gray sky pressing down, wind carrying drizzle. When I reached the house on East 17th, Sophie was standing by the porch, holding an umbrella, her expression unreadable. She motioned me inside. The rooms felt different now. The mirror was gone. The walls were bare. "I shouldn't have lied," she said quietly, "about any of it." I crossed my arms. "Then start from the beginning." She looked down. "It started before Jordan. That house, it belonged to my friend Rachel. She rented it to me cheap when she left town. I needed space to think. But something weird started happening there. I'd hear noises at night, like someone walking upstairs. I thought I was going crazy. I even recorded a few things. That's how the live photo happened." I frowned. "You expect me to believe this was all about some haunted house?" She shook her head, tears pooling. "Not haunted. Watched." I blinked. "Watched?" She reached into her coat and pulled out a small black box, a hidden camera. "I found this behind the mirror last week, facing the room. It's why I moved out. I didn't want to scare you, so I just left." For a moment, everything tilted. I took the camera from her hand. It was warm, like it had been on recently. No markings, no serial number, just a thin slot for a memory card. I said, "Where did you find this?" "Behind the mirror frame." "I swear, Aaron, I didn't plant it." "Then who did?" She looked at me, her voice trembling. "I think it was Jordan. He installed a motion sensor there for lighting." That's what he told me. But then I started finding small holes in the outlets, like lenses. I swallowed hard. "And you didn't tell the police?" "I couldn't. He's connected. He used to work in security tech." Her words hung there, too absurd to believe but too detailed to ignore. We sat down at the bare kitchen table, the camera between us. I felt something crack in me. The anger, the betrayal, the confusion, all tangled up with a new kind of fear. If what she said was true, then someone had been watching them. Maybe even me. I pressed the button on the camera. Nothing. No light. No sound. Then, faintly, a tiny beep. Sophie flinched. "It's on," she whispered. We both stared at it, frozen, as a red light blinked once and went dark again. Later that night, I took the device home. My hands shook as I connected it to my laptop. It wasn't encrypted, just a simple folder of files, all labeled by date. The most recent was from 7:42 p.m. on the night of the live photo. I clicked play. The footage showed Sophie and Jordan laughing, moving close. The camera angle was wide from behind the mirror. A faint whisper, "Sophie," and then a flash of movement in the doorway. Me, my reflection, but not me. The figure stepped halfway into view, paused, and turned toward the camera. The face was shadowed, but the posture, the jacket, even the hair, it was identical. The figure whispered something low I couldn't make out. Then the video cut off. I sat there, frozen. Had someone been following me too? Copying me? Or was this all some twisted trick Jordan had set up? My inbox pinged, an unknown sender. "We should talk about what you saw before someone else does." Attached was a still frame from the same video. The figure in my jacket, facing the mirror. The sender's address, Jordan Fitz Ab. I didn't tell Sophie. I didn't sleep. By morning, the email was gone from my inbox. Deleted. No trace. When I called the police cyber unit, they said they couldn't trace an email without a warrant. That afternoon, Sophie called me in tears. "He showed up," she whispered. "He's outside the house." I was already grabbing my keys. When I reached her street, Jordan's black sedan was parked half a block away. The windshield was wet with drizzle, engine off. No one inside. Sophie was on the porch, shaking. "He left something," she said, pointing to a small envelope taped to the door. Inside was a single USB drive and a note. "You shouldn't have looked." I took it home, plugged it in, and found one file, final recording.mp4. It opened to footage from the same hidden camera. Except this time, the room was empty, just the faint sound of breathing. Then a door creaked open, and someone walked in, wearing that same navy jacket again. Only now the camera panned slightly, like someone was behind it, and a voice, mine but not mine, whispered, "Aaron." The screen went black. My laptop crashed immediately after. When it rebooted, the file was gone. That night, I got a text from an unknown number. "Stop digging. You don't want to know who's actually in those videos." I sat in the dark, listening to the hum of the fridge again. The same sound as the first night I heard that whisper. Maybe Sophie had lied. Maybe Jordan had set us up. Maybe someone else had been watching both of us all along. All I knew was that the truth wasn't done with me yet. By Monday morning, I'd stopped trying to sleep. Every noise sounded like something watching. The hum of the fridge, the creak of the heating vents, even the faint buzz of my phone charging on the nightstand. When the text came in again, I was already awake. "You look too close. Meet me where she lied to you, tonight. Alone." No name, no number history, just those words. I knew where that was. The cafe on Hawthorne, the one where Sophie had said, "If you ever want to understand, come find me." The same spot where I'd watched her with Jordan. I don't know why I went. Maybe I thought I'd finally cornered the truth. Maybe I was just done running from it. When I got there, the air outside was freezing. The sign in the cafe window glowed soft gold through the drizzle. Inside, 2 baristas worked in silence. No Sophie, no Jordan, no one who looked like they wanted to talk. Then I saw it. A man sitting alone in the back booth, hood up, a small envelope on the table beside his coffee. He didn't look up when I approached. "Jordan?" I said quietly. He smiled. Not smug, not nervous, just tired. "You finally showed." He slid the envelope across the table. "I'm not here to hurt you. I just want you to stop." I didn't touch it. Stop what? Digging. Following the file paths. Calling people. You're making noise in the wrong places. The way he said wrong places chilled me. "What's in this, Hunda?" I asked. "Answers," he said. "Enough to keep you safe. But you won't like them." I opened it. Inside was a single photograph. Black and white, grainy, printed from an old surveillance frame. It showed Sophie in that rented house, alone, staring into the mirror. And behind her, barely visible in the shadows, that same figure again. Me, or something that looked exactly like me. Jordan leaned in, voice low. "That isn't you, but it's not me either." I stared. "What the hell are you talking about?" He rubbed a hand over his face. "There's a project, something private, started years ago under a security contractor. Surveillance testing, behavioral mimicry, cameras that map facial movement, gait, voice modulation. They used volunteers without consent. I was hired for installation work. Sophie was one of them." "You're lying." He shook his head. "She didn't know at first. None of them did. But the system learns patterns, couples, habits, voices. It builds a model, a copy." He tapped the photo. "What you saw there was the field test. They mirrored you from her data. Every message, every call, every image she uploaded." I felt my stomach drop. "That's insane." "Maybe," he said. "But they pulled me in to maintain the equipment. I quit when I realized they were recording through the volunteers. That mirror wasn't for decor, Aaron. It was an optic capture lens." I didn't want to believe him, but his hands were shaking. His eyes, they weren't the eyes of someone bluffing. "Why tell me now?" I asked. "Because they don't like loose ends, he said. "The more you look, the more they'll close in." Who's they? The client, he said, standing. You'll see soon enough. He started to leave. I grabbed his sleeve. Wait, what about Sophie? Where is she? He hesitated, then whispered, She was supposed to meet me here too. If she doesn't show by midnight, don't look for her. Then he walked out into the rain and vanished into the dark. I sat there, pulse pounding, the photo trembling in my hand. By midnight, Sophie still hadn't come. When I got home, the front door was unlocked. The house smelled faintly of her perfume and something else. Metallic, like wet iron. Sophie? I called out. No answer. Her shoes were by the door, her jacket draped over the chair. But the rest of the house felt wrong, too still. Then I noticed the kitchen light was on. And on the counter, my laptop was open. A video file played on loop. Final recording, MP4. Except this time, it didn't crash. The footage showed Sophie sitting at our kitchen table, hands folded, eyes red. She looked straight into the camera. If you're watching this, it means I'm gone. I didn't know what they were doing, Aaron. I swear. They used us both. The house, the cameras. It wasn't about cheating. It was about observation. She wiped her eyes. He told me they were studying trust, but it went further. They cloned footage of us, built behavioral models. The man you saw, it's part of that system. They called it the mimic loop. Jordan was supposed to delete the backups, but he kept copies. I think they're coming for him now. Maybe for me too. Her voice broke. Don't look for me, Aaron. If you do, they'll find you next. The video cut off. I sat there for a long time, the cursor blinking over the empty screen. Then my phone buzzed. Unknown number again. She told you not to look. You should have listened. Attached, a photo of my own house taken from outside the window. The timestamp, 7:42 p.m. Something snapped in me. I ran to the front window, rain streaking the glass, and saw movement by the streetlight. A shadow, tall, wearing that same torn cuff jacket. I bolted outside. The air was cold and electric. I shouted, Who are you? The figure turned slightly, just enough for me to see his face under the streetlight. It was mine. Every line, every scar, every breath. Then he whispered my name. Aaron. The exact same tone as the live photo. And he smiled. The next thing I remember, I was back inside, the door locked, my hands trembling. I checked my phone again. The photo was gone. My inbox empty. Every trace of the text wiped clean. Only one new message remained, unsent, stuck in drafts. You are now part of the observation loop. Welcome. That night, I destroyed the laptop, pulled the SIM from my phone, but even now when I close my eyes, I still hear that whisper. Sometimes I wake up at 7:42, no matter what time I go to bed, and sometimes, when the fridge hums just right, I swear I hear him breathing behind me. If this story moved you, subscribe for more real-life confessions and emotional journeys like this one.